Alliance, as well as Texas A&M chapter of Students for Sensible Reform, is it? Students for Sensible Drug Policy, as well as many other committees that she serves on at this point. So please, without further ado, please give Kayla Brown a warm welcome.
First of all, let me just apologize for being late. Texas is a very big state, and I came from Fort Worth today with an unfortunate tire incident. So sorry for my tardiness, but I come bearing great gifts of knowledge and all that good stuff. I guess after hearing about the criminal side of cannabis, I'm here to talk about the industry side of cannabis. And before I go into really what TCIA, the Texas Cannabis Industry Association, is, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we came to be. Because I think that's a huge question mark, that we are actually the industry association before the industry. And we saw that as kind of a necessity for a state like Texas, where there seemed to be a barrier between what the representatives were seeing and what we were saying as advocacy organizations. And like this fine gentleman introduced me, I am a part of several other organizations. I am the executive director and founder of Legally NORML, which is the only law school normal chapter in the country, which was shocking. I am very actively involved with the DFW NORML chapter and work on the legal stuff that they need. And then I am a part of the Women's Alliance, and I am the chapter chair for Texas for Women Grow. And the board, I am the board member. Oh, I lost it. Sorry.
Hang on. Definition. Mike.
Pretty late. How about you?
Keep it going. Next. Keep it going.
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm not very mic savvy. But all of the advocacy groups I was in, we were kind of noticing that there was a barrier between what we were saying and what the representatives were receiving. And so the Industry Association formed on a platform of 3 pillars, which is education, lobbying, and I guess it's more lobbying, but it's advocacy. So advocacy in terms of the industry as a whole, and advocacy on the ground floor at the Capitol, and representing the business angle, which is actually something that we discovered during the last session was very well received. The representatives love to hear the apolitical, neutral business side. I mean, Texas is a business state, we're a savvy state, and with the cannabis industry that is so foreign and so involved, seeing something from the business angle was something they could kind of grasp onto. And so we were able to get a lot of traction and reception from them, which was how we had the first legalized cannabis law. It was enacted in June. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but we do have legal cannabis in Texas. As of January 1st, licensure has opened up. So from an industry perspective, we feel a lot of steam and a lot of momentum coming, but we knew that there needed to be a foundation and kind of a collection, or I guess a central hub for the collection of everyone interested in getting involved in the industry in Texas. Texas is a large state, and there's a lot of people in every corner of it that are interested in the industry and wants to eventually be a part of it in some capacity, whether they're working for somebody who owns a dispensary, whether they want to own the dispensary themselves. We wanted to be able to provide the central hub for people to come together and express their desire to be in the industry, and then put all of those pieces together so that we could build up an industry. The bill that was passed was known during the session as SB 339. It is now known as the Texas Compassionate Use Program. And it serves 150,000 patients, as it applies specifically to intractable epilepsy patients. They have to have gone through every other form of treatment before they're eligible for this program. But with the size of Texas comes very large populations. We're one of the largest populations of the 14 states who have enacted a similar law. So there's enough of a patient demographic to make this kind of an attractive start for an industry. Everybody that gets started now is getting like a 2-year head start. So while there is a limited patient base, there is the opportunity to get started. And so once you have a license, your foot's on the ground, you're in the door, and you're ready to rock and roll. We also are expected to have the second highest tax revenue generation in the country behind California. And between us, California's kind of a mess. So we stand as the state with a blank slate to be the ones who kind of take control of the cannabis industry in terms of tax dollars. So that's something really exciting that this little law that was passed allows us to do. Despite what you guys may have heard, the prescribe recommend issue is actually not a problem. Doctors worked on this bill for 18 months. The Epilepsy Foundation worked on this bill for 18 months. And despite some of the newspaper headlines, they wouldn't pass a bill that is not going to actually work. So they do have doctors on board that are ready to start prescribing now that January has started and the new year started and this law goes into effect. So there's a very specific requirement for doctors, but we have targeted and located those doctors, and they're excited to be a part of the program. This law does require a prescription from a doctor, which is the first active law in the country to require a prescription, because as we know, there was a case about 13 years ago that allowed for the recommendation of medical marijuana. It was kind of saved under the First Amendment, but in the last 13 years, the recommendation of medical marijuana has evolved significantly in states like Colorado and Washington. So the present day practice of a recommendation is actually the same as the active practice of a prescription. And so in fact, the Texas code was also modified under this law to allow doctors to prescribe this medication under Texas state law. It also includes in the law, in the definition of the terms in the law, that prescribe also means recommend. So we've covered those bases in terms of the gap and being afraid that there may not be physicians willing to participate. The use of the word prescribe over recommend has typically in the past gone to mean that the physician stands to lose their license because they're prescribing a federally illegal substance. But in the evolution of the industry and the lack of action on the federal government's part, this practice is actually not too far off of a prescription. So the actual use of a prescription makes Texas the first state that it will require physicians to be accountable for the dosage their patients will receive, which is huge. If we're going to be continuing to fight for this as a medicine, we need to treat it like a medicine, and medicine is prescribed. So Texas will be the first ones to do that. And the other common misconception is that there are no limits on the number of licenses in Texas. It is on a need-based merit, meaning that as long as you can prove that there are patients in your area or in the area that you would like to establish a business, whether it be cultivation, manufacturing, or retail, that as long as you establish a patient base, you are entitled to a license. There is no cap on it. Initially, there was a 3 license requirement, not a cap, but it was perceived as a cap, and any numerical value associated with the license has been since lifted. So it's open game. They even said in the preamble to the regulations on their first draft that they want to stimulate capitalist activity. They want this to be something that is implemented into everyday Texas medical culture. So they were actually very, very open to it. And they have not even required a residency requirement since the first draft regulations when they came out, and we were all flipping through the pages like, really? Really? And even there have been several drafts, I think 4 since then, and there has been no trace of a residency requirement, meaning that for the first time in the history of cannabis, you can invest and participate in the Texas cannabis industry from anywhere in the country. It does mean that we also we don't necessarily have home field advantage, but we do get the opportunity to get in on the ground now while it may not be as attractive to all of those out of state who currently have the option to work in places like Colorado and Washington where there is a much larger market. We have the opportunity to get started now and establish ourselves before they see how wonderful we have it over here, and then they start running, because everyone I tell that there's only a $6,000 licensing fee, I have to pick their jaws up off the ground. That's more than half of what it is in Colorado. Colorado's a $15,000 licensing fee. Massachusetts is a $250,000 licensing fee, and in Hawaii you need $1.2 million liquid cash on hand at the time of application in order to obtain a license. That being said, that makes Texas the most permissible law in the country from an industry perspective. So when you look at it that angle, you see how open DPS and the representatives are to something like a cannabis industry. The way I've always explained it is that this bill was actually the best one we could have gotten because it only addresses a small portion of the state. Colorado is, pardon my French, asses over elbows right now, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And if we were to be in that same position, we are almost 6 times the size of Colorado's population, and only 33% of their state utilizes their medical and recreational marijuana programs, just based on the city option, or the individual city option to opt out of the regulations. Texas does not have that. If you are a city in the state of Texas, you are obligated to allow the cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensing of cannabis, low THC, but cannabis nonetheless, and you can't opt out. So that is a huge difference between Colorado and Texas. But it also means we have to go slow because we are a border state, we are a large state, and we are an influential state. So whatever we do, there's a great prediction that the South will follow. So we have to do this the right way. And we started off on an excellent foot by requiring all physicians to be responsible for the dosage of patients, treating it like a medicine. And to do that, we need to do that little bits at a time. So I was kind of assimilated to asking your parents for a trip to Disney World, and they gave us 6 Flags. So if we can show that we can handle being responsible and a positive addition to Texas, they're going to see that we are able to handle the trip to Disney World. And so honestly, we have no cannabis culture in Texas, and then granting us the like itty bitty baby step, that's all we need in order to show them we can do this. We're a positive addition to every industry. We are unlike any industry in that we address medical and agricultural and industrial, absolutely, and several different emotional aspects are involved with cannabis and the industry itself. So it has to be something that's taken very seriously and very sensitively, and I think we've done that so far. And so Texas is actually right in line with Colorado. They were medical and decriminalized for 10 to 15 years before they were allowed recreational. So we are actually right in step with that, and as long as we continue to go with the snail's speed, we get the advantage of learning from all of their mistakes. We know about pesticides in advance, and I couldn't imagine that on a Texas size level. So from that perspective, we're not moving as slow as we think. It just is not fun to watch them all go faster.
Sure.
The regulations for Texas are actually very, very permissive. They're very broad, which is both a positive and a negative, in that we're not really sure, like, okay, well, are you going to allow us to do this, or are you going to allow us to deliver this to somebody? Or, I mean, there's a lot of things that are not set in stone, but that gives us the beauty of kind of carving that out ourselves. The things that they do require are 2 years worth of operating capital in a pro forma, meaning you have to have contemplated what is it going to take me to operate for the next 2 years, and why do I think that? Basically saying you have thought this out enough to run a business, and if they require this of every business, we may not have businesses failing like they do. The regulations are simply requiring you to think out your business, start to finish, and part of that is also the technical and technological ability to operate under the license you are seeking, which sounds like, oh man, they're just wanting you to know how to do what you're asked to do. So if you want to cultivate, you have to show and illustrate that you have the technical and technological ability, which goes beyond just I used to grow in my closet for a really long time. Sorry. You have to have some kind of horticulture experience, botanical experience. If you need to go to Colorado for a little bit to learn how to do that, that's also an opportunity. But even just knowing how to grow basil. Basil has the same exact grow process. The only difference is the seed. And so that is something that would be considered technical or technological experience. And if that's something that you are interested in and looking for, also let me know, because I can definitely help you find the technical or technological experience that you need. The security requirements are very heavy, but they're basically just very, very afraid of diversion, meaning that somebody else is going to take your shipment that is supposed to go to these kids with epilepsy, and they're going to go ahead and head south of the border with it.
Because everybody wants no weed.
I was going to say, and yeah, everybody wants something, a truck full of something you can't get high on. But they don't quite believe us. I feel like when you say, I promise you cannot get high from this. It is just the cannabis phobia. And so out of respect for that aspect of it, and then also to build for the future, because eventually we will be having truckfuls of something that someone might want to take and run away with. So laying those foundations for security requirements now just make sure that everybody in the game is as secure as possible, so that when we do expand the level of THC, all current license holders are abiding by the necessary security requirements. They require you to have surveillance, full lockdown, and also emergency exit, emergency diversion plans. I basically need you to think of what would be the worst thing that could happen, and here's how I'm going to fix it, avoid it, prepare for it. Everything that you would need to run a business with a very popular commodity and very secure facility. So a lot of it is pretty common sense, but it seems very intimidating when it comes out in the legalese and on the regulations. So that's kind of our job as TCIA, is we also help break down regulations so that you are able to approach them and digest them, and it's not something that is so overwhelming that you're not really quite sure what the regulations are telling you. Because I definitely can attest for that. I think I was after my first semester of law school, I was hanging on by 0.01 of a GPA point. So legalese is really hard, and I get it. But it is possible. It's totally comprehensible once you kind of break through what they're trying to say. And they use all of these fancy words to kind of, I don't want to say confuse, I just want to say be thorough. They're very, very thorough when it comes to the security. And when it comes to what you do with your employees. Everybody that you have involved in your business has to go through the background checks, has to go through the registration into the compassionate use program, and they have to know who's working for you and what they used to do. Criminal incidents in your past are not necessarily disqualifiers. They just require an alternative method for applying. When you apply, you're going to have to go through a character fitness test, and they kind of want to interview you and go through any hiccups you may have had since your incident, but there are ways to overcome any blemishes that you may not be all that proud of before in your criminal past. But other than that, as long as you maintain proper reporting, the proper compliance with your employees, then everybody that you have is able to work for you and is able to get paid to grow weed.
I just made a chicken and sausage.
So that sounds like something you guys have always been dreaming of, is the ability to grow weed legally in Texas, or the ability to sell weed legally in Texas, or even manufacture it and turn it in from a plant into an edible. All of these things are actually currently legal in the state of Texas, and in order to get involved in them, the first thing to do is to educate yourself on what the law says, what the law allows, and what the law says in relation to other states. There is currently no state in the country that will allow you to move things from one state to the other. Our law does not tell you how to get the seeds or the clones into this state. So there is a little bit of a gap, and those are some kind of things that you guys have to, in your research, will figure out where those gaps are and what information you need from DPS and what information or what things you need to do just without legal ears. So. Another option is the Entrepreneur Incubator, and that is TCIA's most popular membership option. The incubator started after our first annual banquet last February, when I was bombarded with questions about how do I build a business plan for a cannabis industry? How do I plan for this? Do you know anybody that can be my grower if I want to be a retailer? What do I do about security? All of those questions that would normally be barriers or huge obstacles into getting into the industry or wanting to get into a business in the industry. We kind of break those down for you, and we take the mentorship approach and give you the opportunity to be successful in the cannabis industry by doing it with you. We provide you all the networking resources you need. You need a security guy, I've got 3. You need employees, I've got a handful of people that are begging for jobs, and so many more that would be if they knew that you were looking for somebody. But we also have a job promoter, or somebody who runs a job board, somebody who does HR. I mean, we've got all of those little pieces. We've got real estate, and that's my personal job in the incubator program, is to link you up with all the pieces that you need. We also give you the documents that you need in a document database to build your business plan, your business model, your team player, your team roster, and then your investor pitch and investor pitch deck, so that we also help you go from building your business to getting your business funded. Everyone involved in TCIA is either, or in the incubator program specifically, has either got previous experience in the business owning, business starting, or business startup mentorship, or they have gone through the business startup themselves from start to finish and are now accredited investors. So we've got somebody on every kind of spectrum to give you help and guidance where you need it, and then we also have the connections to give you the people and the other pieces that you need in order to get yourself up and launched. We have monthly networking socials that allow you to commingle and educate yourself with other incubators, and we break them up by theme. Our last one was cultivation and third-party testing, so that one was specifically for cultivation. Our president spoke, and he has got the first, to my knowledge, the first grow in Texas. He is currently starting his application for licensure and has been in operation in Virginia and North Carolina as well. Prior to this, growing basil. So it's not just blank advice. It's because we've been there and we've done that. I personally have been the daughter of a business owner from very early on with a tanning salon. I started a scrapyard, and then I went to law school. I'm a third-year law student at Texas A&M, and I specialize in business startups. I participate in the entrepreneurship clinic that goes through the startup, the formation, and the filing of your corporate documents, the writing and drafting of your company agreement, all of the pieces that you need legally to get started. That's where I come in. The Entrepreneur Incubator offers 15 hours of pro bono legal work to get you started, and that comes straight from Texas A&M. They're actually very supportive of this endeavor. It was a professor of mine who encouraged me to start looking at cannabis law. He now runs the second cannabis law professor blog in the country, and we're the fourth law school at Texas A&M in the country to have a marijuana law class that just wrapped up this fall. I'm still waiting on my grades. But I wrote the class, so I'm hoping it goes well. But they are very open to it. The dean spoke at it was still hard. The dean spoke at our inaugural dinner for the banquet last year, and so the school is very on board. We work with them especially to get new businesses through our clinics, whether it be entrepreneurship clinic, trademark, patent, or copyrights. So whatever your invention or idea is, we've got a way to get you secured legally and pro bono through Texas A&M, where you're still getting the supervision of attorneys from Kelly Hart & Howell, which is one of the leading corporate firms in the country, serves as oversight for the entrepreneurship clinic, as well as several renowned IP professors and IP attorneys supervise the other trademarks, the patents, and the copyright clinic. So we get you covered on the legal side of it. We educate you, we get you networking, we help you build your business plan, and then when you're ready for it, we help you get funding. And funding is something that is very prominent in Texas, but it is very targeted. There are several organizations or groups. ARCU is one, the Marijuana Investment Conference is another. There was a Marijuana Investment Conference in Houston about 2 years ago, which was where this all started for TCIA. I met my mentor. But they've had a little bit of movement. They've got a lot of accredited investors in Texas that are just looking for the right opportunity to invest in. And instead of you having to go out and ask your uncle or your grandma, people in your neighborhood, we take care of that for you. We get you a well-polished pitch. You pitch yourself Shark Tank style to our 3 investor mentors, and they provide the feedback. They also get first dibs. So we've got in-house investors watching you start from just, I kind of want to be in the industry, to ready to rock and roll with your pitch. And they've seen the evolution. They get their hand in the pot first, which is why they do the investor mentor. So you have somebody watching with a checkbook at all times. And if not, we get you ready for someone with a checkbook. So we take you from start to finish and get you ready to launch yourself up into the industry. And that is our primary focus and our primary function is TCIA. And that's something we hope to continue to do, but we currently work with other incubators and other company launchers like Cannabis Boulder, and they have you on an intensive lockdown for 20 weeks. I want to say 18 to 20 weeks. They give you $20,000 to quit your job. They get a 20% investment or a 20% stake in your company, and they hook you up with everybody they know in the industry. And these are the guys that started it all. Some of them are like the founder of Dixie Elixirs, ArcView, the guys who started ArcView, all of the original players, the ones who do the Canopy Boulder. And so if you're destined for more than just the state of Texas and you want to take your brand national, we also have the capability to do that through them. So we've kind of got our hands in a little bit of everything because we want to build a full and overly full cannabis industry in Texas that is so bursting with enthusiasm and excitement, and who is ready to show the representatives that we need just a little bit more THC, or just to take a few more conditions. We actually are getting ready for lobbying in the 2017 session. I was lucky enough to step into a legislative process class through Texas A&M that lets us go through the mock process of having a bill sponsored to go through mock committee and mock hearing. and the mock calendar session. So everything that we were going to do in 2017, I'm going to go ahead and give it a go 2016, and representing all of y'all in all of Texas and expanding the THC. And then we're going to take it on in 2017 and see if we can go hard and make it a little bit bigger. Veterans are our next targeted patients, and PTSD is our next targeted condition. So we are getting ready to take that on. We welcome and encourage all volunteers and anybody interested in that cause. We do lobby training. We will be at the Capitol. I personally will be, because I'll finally have graduated. And yeah, we're all there for everybody, and we'd love to have y'all. So if anybody has any questions or anything, definitely feel free to shoot me a line or grab me tonight or find me on the website.
Question.
Yeah.
Would we be able to get all 3 of the licenses and do the growing and?
Absolutely.
and
You can get tri-license. You can go for mono, dual, or tri-licensure. If that wasn't the case when the law was passed, but in between when the law was passed to when the first draft of regulations came out, they eliminated the vertical integration requirement. They originally required you to have all 3 licenses and have all of the other things planned out and have all the capital and all of that ready to rock and roll. And then somewhere between when they passed the law and enacted the legislation or the regulations, they eliminated that. So it became open season. You can get as many as you are interested in, able to perform under, or go for them all. I mean, my suggestion would be go for them all while you can, because you are going to be the first ones. You're setting the stage, and you're kind of deciding how it's going to look to the representatives, because that's the first ones that apply, and that's going to be the standard that they kind of gauge the rest off of. And then that also means that when the THC level opens up in 2017, you're applying for a license renewal and not a new license. So any of the new regulations require to be grandfathered in the original regulations. So it's definitely a head up to get all 3 while you can. Thank you.
I have a question. Have they issued a plant count, like plant count restrictions, or is it?
Not at all. They have absolutely no idea.
Is it going to be based on your patient count?
It's going to be based on, they do not want any excess, so you can't have any excess storage. But while you are figuring out how much it takes for you to supply your manufacturer with plant, because there is no flower allowed. It is strictly oil only. So while we are in the process of figuring out how much plant is necessary for oil, there is little room for that to have some excess, but I would be very cautious, because a part of these regulations eliminates your 4th Amendment right against search and seizure, as it allows DPS to walk in your door of your licensed facility at any time without any warning, without anything. They can walk in your door and search and run a test at that time. So
I heard you were actually going to have cameras on your cultivation setting, that the DPS can actually link up to, and just like.
I haven't heard that, but I imagine that would be the case. And it would be, honestly, I would recommend anybody operate as if that would be happening anyway, just because they can come in at any time. We want to follow the rules as closely and as thoroughly as possible now, so that when they see that that's how we're playing it, they will allow for more. Otherwise, it's just going to be a constant uphill battle, and they win every time. So, I'm so sorry. Did I hear another hand or see another hand?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Whenever, a few clips back, you've got established business and business structure. What does established business actually imply? I mean, does
That
it
you
mean
have
you have to
filed
have an
with the state of
established
Texas.
business? I mean, does that mean you have to have an established business prior to filing or applying?
You just have to apply for your LLC through the state of Texas at the time of filing. It can't be, I'm going to have this business. When they grant you a license, they're granting you a license for that business under your name. So if you haven't registered your name with the state of Texas yet, then you don't officially have an established business.
So you just registered with the state of Texas?
Yes, it's
for
just a
profit?
$300 filing fee, and as long as your name does not conflict with anybody else's name, I wouldn't suggest the use of Texas or cannabis. I keep getting floods of emails like, please approve this, the state won't let you approve that. But other than that, it's pretty much open season. They're not allowing anything with the word marijuana currently. So that's something important to know, that if that is, or weed, as long as they can determine that this is what your business is doing. As far as intellectual property wise, no one is allowed to obtain any trademarks or any other federal documentation of any intellectual property. So if your business is an invention, call me or email me separately, and I'll get you linked up with the clinic so that you're able to protect yourself as soon as it is federally legal. But there are certain things about introducing it into commerce and other things that I cannot give specific legal advice to as a law student, because anybody bar that's looking.
Attorneys
They make us
counsel.
say. So, but as I can get you guys hooked up to the clinic because I would hate for you guys to lose your property rights because of the federal tango. Nobody in the industry is allowed to have anything federally trademarked or copyrighted or patented right now because no one can provide a letter saying that they do not directly violate the Controlled Substances Act. So once that ban is lifted, there is actually a bill in Congress attempting to go through Congress right now that would deschedule CBD and hemp from the CSA, in which case you would then be able to register. So with that being so close, talk to me or somebody at the A&M Law Clinic if you need further guidance on how to protect yourself IP-wise. But having yourself an established business at the time that you apply is the only thing they require. You don't have to have years of experience or anything under that name, as long as you just have an LLC. And it can't be in your house. Your business has to have a predetermined facility, which the way to go about doing that without signing up for a lease, not knowing whether or not your licensure will get approved, is to do so with, submit a letter of intent or another similar agreement with you and your potential landlord at the time of application, saying that contingent upon approval for licensure, your lease will start here, this is your predetermined facility, you have all of the security that you need, but none of this will go into effect until licensure has been approved. So if you also need those special words drafted, definitely call the A&M Law School, because those are something that if you end up sideways with it and you may stumble into a lease you're not really ready to pay for.
So it's pretty important that they get in contact with TCIA to have these steps and everything. is
If you're
already
looking
worked
to be in the industry in any capacity, definitely it is absolutely worth every penny. I don't even know if I got to that far, but our entrepreneur incubator is $139 a month, and that's as many months as you need to be in that, and that means you get weekly phone calls from us. You get as much updated information on regulations or clarification with DPS. I have direct contact with the head of DPS, and the ability to ask questions is a beautiful thing. What a law student gets you, or being a law student gets you, but we've got those direct access to the questions and stuff that it will cost you so much more than the monthly donation to take care of a fine violation or to have a license or your application not approved. So definitely something to consider if you are interested in getting into the industry. TCIA is definitely my recommendation. A little bit biased, but if I were getting into it as a business, it actually is. Sorry, that's my sister, and she's absolutely right. It is all about who you know.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the deals and the heads up,
The inside
that's where we're the ones to talk to.
Connections too.
Yeah, the
Like
inside
I watch the
track.
people that she networks, and it's like if someone even mentions that they know something, you know, they have this skill or actually, here's what we need to do. And it's the network.
That is my forte. Is to say,
It's
you need to be with that person needs to be with you. We also have the access to.
When it comes to applications and stuff, I know the LLC, what about nonprofits applying for applications? How?
It has to be a for-profit structure.
about
Originally, it was a
a
nonprofit. That was something we specifically lobbied against that, because a for-profit entity is more likely to have a solid membership and management structure that is going to adhere to the very, very restrictive seed to sale tracking that is required, and there's no room for any kind of shift in management powers or the things that may be a little less solid if you're in a nonprofit, which I totally understand is running a nonprofit, but a for-profit entity is required.
Okay, my last question. How would they determine your ability to grow? I mean, you said you can take a class in Colorado, but I don't know.
Instead of class in Colorado, it would be more of getting some hands-on, like internship style. You get to go in there and get to grow with them. And
What
not
about a master of
necessarily-
horticulturist degree or some sort of?
Yeah, a horticulturist degree would definitely.
Well, maybe not a degree, but like
Certification.
Some sort of
If you know how to
My
grow.
National Garden
Does
Association
it have to be-
training, would that count?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Does it have to be several years, or does it just have to have a show of certification?
They are intentionally broad with that because there is so much that would count as technical or technological ability. They just want to make sure that this is a medication, this is medicine, and if you don't know what the hell you're doing, we don't want you to have a license. And so if you're able to establish legally that you know what you're doing, like I said, the growing in your closet doesn't necessarily cover it, but you know you grew in your closet, you know you have the ability to do it, so what you can in terms of,
But according to them, the dry material is not medicine, it's only medicine after we make it available, right?
it's very backwards. I absolutely, it's the process by which it is manufactured. So if you have the ability to grow that part of it, they don't consider that flower product medicinal, but they consider that part of the process that is required to produce the oils.
Recreational extraction methods.
They have not even, I imagine they have not even considered it, but we personally have specific guidance on that. I worked for Vicente Cedarburg this summer as a law firm. They're actually the marijuana law firm under their URL, and they're the guys who worked to pass Amendment 64 to make it recreationally legal. So they're the ones on the ground floor, and they were experiencing
Fires,
butane issues to the point that during my time there, they outlawed the use of butane for non-commercial grade grows, and anyone who who did not get prior approval and as evident by the certificate to be able to use butane. So I imagine that the use of butane will be quickly mixed. I would strongly suggest an alternative. There are several methods by which that is more easily, or is not more easily done, but is more safely done. I know butane is the fastest and the quickest way to do it, but I would not lead with that when applying for a license. And the risk of blowing yourself up is quite high. So there's that. There are not any, if not, I personally say that there are no manufacturing entrepreneurs in my incubator. To my knowledge, I do not know of anybody in the state of Texas that is doing manufacturing. And if they are, they probably shouldn't tell me about it because I've got the whole legal thing. But once they have a license, I would love to know anybody interested in manufacturing, anybody doing manufacturing, because I've got several entrepreneurs in my incubator who are doing the retail and several who like to do the cultivation, but no one that knows how to make that, bridge that gap. So I definitely would love to hear from you if that's where you are interested in. But we also have mentor guidance for the distribution of it as well. So if somebody who can do it on a mass scale and wants to do all the pieces from start to finish, we can help you do that part as well.